I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the February 11th meeting of the Board of County Commissioners. My name is Shelley Bueller, and I have the pleasure of serving as chair of the commission this year. I get to work with these fine gentlemen, Commissioner Kevin Cook and Commissioner Bob Archer.
Good morning.
Madam Clerk, the first item, please.
First item is item 2, unfinished business. Number 1, consider authorization and execution of contract C41-2016 with the City of Topeka relating to financing countywide infrastructure development, economic development, and quality of life projects.
Thank you. Commissioners, I have outlined in a memo some of the highlights of this proposal, and I'm sure that more might be added today, and we can certainly have that discussion. My intent would be to have discussion on this and then redo the memo and then send that back over, hopefully with an approved interlocal today, to the city so they could take action as soon as possible. I think it might be worth reading the highlights that I've outlined, and I've outlined this with the help of the county councilor and with our Public Works Department, Tom Block, as well. The current voting nature of JADO remains as it has since 2001. That's in the proposed interlocal agreement. The urban programming has been removed to be consistent with the ballot question. The amount set aside for county bridges has been reduced from $2.16 million per year to $1.95 million per year. The city has made it clear that they have as a priority the completion of the street infrastructure projects. So in this proposal, the Kansas Expo Center project will now be completed in phases as opposed to being entirely completed in the first several years. This allows several street projects to be moved up in the order. The priority of the Kansas Expo Center deferred maintenance and livestock additions remain. However, the remainder of the renovation will begin in 2026. An extra $5 million above and beyond the current $10 million will be added to the Topeka Zoological Park project in the year 2031. The funds assigned to the Bikeways project will be assigned to the Metropolitan Topeka Planning Organization. And there's been some discussion about the structure of JADO, and although the city proposed some major changes in the structure of JADO, there's really nothing wrong with the current structure. The voting public would agree with that assessment, as an overwhelming 65% of the public approved the new sales tax. The vote should be seen as an approval of how JADO has been structured for the last 15 years. The city has also proposed splitting each year's revenues on a percentage basis. However, the public will not know when these projects will be slated to begin. In our attachments, we have a brief attachment and a more detailed attachment. By having a project order and a schedule, that's revised attachment A, we are being as transparent as possible. The interlocal still has the flexibility to move projects from their project year as the need arises, much as we have done with the current interlocal project order. We have been anxiously awaiting the interlocal from the city. This is a revised interlocal, and so discussion, and whether we want to take action and move this on. Commissioners? Commissioner Archer?
Yes, if I may, Madam Chair. Can I have the county councilor come up, please? I think there's some confusion about implementing an extension of the sales tax. I was talking to a city councilman last night who indicated that if we didn't have an interlocal agreement, that the sales tax extension would go forward and the city would get 60% of the money and the county would get 40% of the money. I don't think that's correct. Would you straighten that out? I think the public and the city council needs to understand this better.
Absolutely. Rich Eckert, Shawnee County Councilor. The Kansas Department of Revenue is actually who implements the tax. Revenue does not watch, nor are they required to watch, our elections. They're maybe not even aware of it unless they actually had a chance to vote on it because they live here locally. What they watch for are when the municipalities send in a levy-in resolution, or ordinance as the case may be, a levy-in resolution passed by this board that is backed by an election, and that is what causes them to implement the tax. So I've been in contact with KDOR within the last month. I had a nice conversation with them, and they indicated to me that in order for them to do the things they need to do, because they need to input it into their computer system, and make sure that, you know, grocery stores and businesses, the ones that actually have to collect the tax, in order for them to get all that work done, they need the levy-in resolution by September 1st of this year. So it's not like something we can wait until December 31 and then spring it. That doesn't work. It doesn't work that way. So we have to pass another resolution. And if we do not pass that resolution, there will be no sales tax.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I think that needs to be heard. And I think my view on the voting is that the city and the county are equal partners, and we're working together for the betterment of our community. But this provision giving the city a supermajority, 10-3 voting supermajority, is a poison pill. And in my view, it will ensure that the sales tax is not extended. It will ensure that there's no money for city streets. It'll ensure that there's no money for the Expo Center, for economic development, and all the other good things for our community. So I want that message to be loud and clear. Otherwise, I'd like to compliment the chair on developing this proposal. It's well done. I don't have anything that I would change, and I appreciate the work that you've done and the work our county councilor's done. Tom Block and Tom Flanagan also need to be recognized for the work they've done. So I'll make a motion to approve it as presented, Madam Chair.
I will second, but I do have some comments.
Thank you. There's been a motion by Commissioner Archer, second by Commissioner Cook. Comments?
Mr. Eckert, I think that it's important that we distinguish this extension of the half-cent sales tax from other half-cent sales tax that exist. The city has a separate half-cent sales tax. How do these two interact?
Well, they don't. When a county passes or puts on for a ballot question a sales tax, by statute, we have to specify exactly what's going to happen, all right? And so that's why you see with our sales taxes, we name the projects. The cities kind of have two powers. They have a general sales tax that they don't have to specify. And then they, on their last one, and the legislature changes these laws from time to time, so back when they enacted their first sales tax, the legislature then, after that, passed a second one that upped the cap or the limit that a city can have on sales tax. For instance, we're limited to 1 penny, Shawnee County is, but we don't have a time limitation. We can impose a 1-cent sales tax for 30 years if we could get the voters to vote for it. The city's street sales tax is underneath a statute that lets them up the limit, but it's limited to 10 years. So it's only a 10-year sales tax. And in that sales tax, the cities self-limited themselves to what they could spend the money for. So we've all heard some discussion about when they redo a street, they can only redo the street. If it didn't have a sidewalk, they can't add a sidewalk. That's a self-limitation that they imposed with their on their ballot question. So they have that half-cent sales tax to themselves that they can use, and they're using it for road reconstruction, I believe is the term that they used.
And that distinguishes from this sales tax, in which it does cover the ability to do gutters, sidewalks, water lines, anything associated with those roads.
Right. This is sidewalk to sidewalk. You can do everything in the middle. You can change it. You can go from 3-lane to 5, 5 to 3, whatever your traffic count shows. You can do anything.
Which
You
would
can even buy more right-of-way to make your sidewalks bigger, or if you didn't have them there in the first place.
which would be a great benefit to the city of Topeka citizens.
This is the most flexible sales tax you can have after you've named the project.
Looking back over the last 12 years, the projects have come in on budget, under budget, and on time. And so I know that sometimes we'll see criticisms in the Capital Journal or from constituents saying, I voted for roads, why aren't the roads being done? And again, we're distinguishing between the two projects, the two sales tax.
Right, and to be technical, on the countywide sales tax passed in 2004, every project is going to be done under budget and before the sales tax expires.
And I think it's very important that we distinguish between these two because it can become confusing when you're talking about a sales tax for roads.
Now, I said before it expires, there might be some bills that carry on into the next year, so.
But as to the actual levying authority, the three commissioners are the ones that ultimately will vote to levy this tax.
Yes.
Correct? And so if we cannot reach an agreement, or if the agreement is so poisoned, as Commissioner Archer had termed, the commission can say, we would rather walk away from a bad deal than impose that upon the taxpayers.
That is correct. You have the option to not impose the levy. You are not required to simply because of the vote of the people.
All right. And I think that's important for the city council to recognize that ultimately they may poison all of the benefit to the county, to the city, and to our community. And I think those are important highlights. So,
Thank
I
you.
will give my second.
Okay. I think it's important to note, too, that these are sales tax dollars for these projects. If this agreement if it's not approved, it's going to present a hardship on property taxes, or we don't do the projects. I mean, those are the options. So we diversify our revenue by sales tax and property tax. This is the one way we do it, and this is the one way we get those projects completed. But if we don't, we have to rely on property tax, or we don't do the projects, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And this is in the online and in our packet. This tells the taxpayers, those who voted on this, exactly when projects will be completed. This is a estimate of the projects. It is a guide, but it definitely shows then when we would work on those projects, design and construction. Everything is included in that spreadsheet, so there should be no questions.
And Commissioner Archer made a very good point to me last night. These spreadsheets aren't the easiest to read, so if it's approved today, we're going to hand walk to each city council person over at Muni Hall the actual easy-to-read spreadsheet, so they're not having to rely on the internet.
Okay.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Also, just a point on the spreadsheet, if we look back, again, as history as being an indicator of our future, the last 12 years, there's been a team that's met with the Audit Finance Department, Public Works, City Manager, or City Manager's designee, and if there's projects that needed to be moved up or pushed back within that time frame, that team works on those and works as a team. And so we have a spreadsheet, but that doesn't mean that if there's a construction project that needs to be moved up, that it couldn't be moved up. Or if there was an unforeseen delay, that team would work on that.
And there's actually been 2 requests to move projects underneath the current sales tax, and it's not been a problem. We bring those to the JADO board for a vote so that everybody has notice of exactly what's going on. But we've done it twice.
Rich, do you recall if those were projects that were moved up or moved back?
They were city requests to move 2 projects back a year.
Okay.
And we moved into that gap, we moved a county project up into the gap year.
I want to clarify something, though. In the interlocal, we put forward, this is the city and the county coming together to put forward this 15-year tax. And in that, it specifies $5 million a year for economic development. And it established, this agreement establishes JADO,
Yes.
correct?
Yeah.
But then it also sets forth the infrastructure and quality of life projects that were approved
Yes.
in the vote. They are somewhat distinct. I mean, they overlap a little bit, but not much. But Finance Committee has oversight of those projects as far as the budgets. JADO has oversight of economic development and who they contract with as a partner for economic development. JADO has oversight of that. They do not necessarily have oversight of those projects. We are set, the projects have to be set in stone according to the ballot.
Yeah, going back in history, the first JADO was actually in 2002 on the quarter-cent sales tax. And what we figured out, it was kind of hard to write checks. So when we redid JADO for 2004, we formed that finance committee and gave them the ability to have a holding account. And the purpose back then, and I think it's still pretty much the purpose, is simply to create a mechanism to pay the bills when we're doing a street project. And that's pretty much what they do. However, if you're doing a road that's assigned to the city, or we're doing a road like Wanamaker or Croco that was assigned to the county folk have the oversight of that road construction. It doesn't come back to JADO. It doesn't come to JADO for a budget. It doesn't come to JADO to award the bid or management of the contractor. That's all done by the staff of the representative municipality. But the finance committee is the one that pays the bills from the sales tax proceeds.
And this, if there are any amendments in the interlocal, oftentimes JADO is made aware of those, but then if there are amendments, it has to come back before both bodies, correct?
Yes, depending on the type of amendment.
Okay.
Depending on the type. It could just go straight to JADO if it's a JADO matter.
Okay.
But yes.
Okay.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
While we're talking of JADO, I know that the city had the significant change adding that they would all be voting members. Under the current arrangement, Rich, are all city members able to be part of JADO?
They are part of JADO.
And they're all invited to the meetings?
Yes.
And they all have the ability to ask questions and participate?
Yes.
And they all have the ability to make motions?
Yes, Your Honor.
They just can't, not all can vote.
Yes. They're a member of the board is an ex officio member, or in other words, they're a member of JADO by their office. However, we do make a distinction between voting and non-voting.
So everyone has the ability to participate, add thought, add conversation. So this idea that they're underrepresented or underserved doesn't quite cast the full picture.
And plus, they have a majority vote already.
Good to know.
Okay, all right. I know we're spending a lot of time on this, but I think
It's important.
it's very important, and it is confusing. And so hopefully as we further discuss things, the public further understands it. I have had conversations with Mayor Wolgast and gave him a call, and we have sent this information to he and to Lisa Robertson, the city attorney for the city of Topeka, and also Mr. Colson, the city manager. In my conversations with Mayor Wolgast, he was appreciative that we were getting it back to them quickly, and that he didn't give me any indication on when it would be heard by the city council, but have had conversation with him. So at this time, is there anyone in the audience who would want to make any comments? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Rich. Thank you for your work. Tom Block and Tom Flanagan worked a great deal on this as well, so appreciate it.
Item 3, consent agenda.
I would move for approval of the consent agenda as presented.
It's a motion by Commissioner Cook,
Second.
second by Commissioner Archer. All in favor say aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries 3-0.
Item 4, new business. A, County Clerk, number 1, consider all voucher payments.
Madam Chair, this morning we have a voucher report dated February 10th, 2016. Total amount of vouchers is $577,388.31. Significant amounts on the voucher report include for Kansas Director of Vehicles, approximately $134,000, and for the sheriff, approximately $109,000, most of that being dedicated to purchase of new vehicles for the sheriff's department. I've reviewed the vouchers, have no issues, and move to approve as presented.
Second.
Thank you. There's a motion by Commissioner Archer, second by Commissioner Cook. All in favor say aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries 3-0.
Item A2, consider correction orders.
Move approval.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Archer. All in favor say aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries.
Item B, planning. Number 1, acknowledge receipt of the report covering the period of January 1, 2014 through December 31st, 2015 regarding the Kansas Sand and Concrete, Inc. conditional use permit for a land-based sand and gravel extraction operation and a plan for the next 2 years of operation.
Good morning, Commissioners. Barry Beagle, Shawnee County Planning Department. Back in 2005, a conditional use permit was issued so as to allow Kansas Sand and Concrete to establish a land-based sand and gravel extraction operation at the north end of Valencia Road, north of I-70. There were a number of conditions associated with the granting of that approval, one of which was that every 2 years, Kansas Sand is to submit a detailed report outlining the work that they have completed over the course of the last 2 years, and then indicating what their expectations are for moving forward. And as part of that, there is an annual review of road conditions with respect to Valencia Road. The report that was submitted by Kansas Sand was detailed. It did provide information with regard to the tonnage of sand that had been extracted, the number of truckloads, as well as the days and hours of operation. All fall within compliance of the terms and conditions of the conditional use permit. The road view that was conducted by Tom Block with the County Public Works Department did note some checking and cracking, but it is planned and anticipated by Kansas Sand that there will be a new overlay in 2017, which should address that and keep the road in fine condition. So it is the recommendation of the Planning Department that the County Commission find that the detailed report is acceptable and that they are still operating within the terms and conditions of their conditional use permit.
Thank you, Barry. Question, it also states on the agenda a plan for the next 2 years of operation.
Basically, that's the site plan that they submitted, as well as some of the details within the report indicate that they will continue to move forward. And it indicates the direction of expansion of the extraction, that they are doing. It's a progression, the natural progression of their existing operation.
But nothing changing the original conditional
No.
use permit?
Everything else remains as authorized.
As authorized?
Yes.
Thank you. Further questions? Anyone wanting to speak on this item? This would be your chance.
My name is Carol Marple, and I live in southern Shawnee County. And I read this last night, the conditional use permit, and I don't understand it. To me, it seems like there would be time for some changes. We all sat at a meeting last night on economic development. We don't necessarily agree as to what form it should take, but I think everybody in this room wants economic development. And by reading this conditional use permit, and I don't know that much about Kansas Sand, I guess I don't understand why we would want to handcuff a small business in our community. I read that I believe it's 35 loads that they can make a day. Now, I'm sure during the summer months, they could probably sell more. And 8 to 5, I know if you're a cement worker, you want to be able to start work early in the summer because of the heat. And if you can't get cement because they can't get sand till 8 o'clock when they start hauling, Kansas Sand, I'm sure, pays a lot of taxes to our county. I have no clue how many people that they hire, but I would think that if these restrictions were lifted or were different, that they would hire more people. And this is what we want, is our small businesses to succeed in our county. Now, they have agreed to do a road. Do they own the road? Or is it a public road?
It's time for public comment, so you can make public
Okay,
comment.
well, if it's a public road, I don't understand how you can limit who drives on it or how much they drive on it. I mean, On my own road, I would like to have a couple people so they couldn't drive on it, you know, the loud motorcycle at 2 in the morning or something like that. But as far as general use on a road, I see no reason on a public road, if it is a public road, how you can limit who drives on it. So and we also have a big project coming up, the Willard Bridge. And I'm guessing that this is the closest access point for sand for that project. And I know as a grandparent whose grandchildren are caught up in the long bus rides and everything, I do not want to see anything delay this project. And if they are providing sand or some form of product to that bridge, I don't want to see it delayed. I guess I don't understand some of the conditions to the conditional use permit. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Move to approve. Oh, I'm sorry.
Let's make it really brief. My name is Kevin Bittner. I'm president of Valencia Neighborhood Association. And obviously, Carol hadn't sat through the many hours.
Make sure you give your comments to us.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Kevin.
The many hours that were put into this conditional use permit. It was meant to strike the balance between a neighborhood and a business that operated. And though we don't like having sand trucks run up and down the road, we have worked with them, and the conditional use permit is the maximum that the neighborhood can manage with and what the county has felt is needed. I do not feel any changes should be made. If anything, we would like to see less, but we understand we're working with the company. If Kansas Sand had concerns, they should have been here. So we appreciate the commission's consideration here.
Thank you. Thank you for being here this morning. Anyone else? There's a motion by Commissioner Archer.
I'll second. Just noting, again, as so noted, this is something that has taken a lot of compromise between two parties, between the Corporation of Kansas Sand and Gravel and the Valencia neighborhood. This is a long-standing issue between trying to balance between the business operations and enjoyment of your home and safety of the community. And as to the road, that was negotiated due to the heavy equipment coming up and down the road and the impact upon the roadway, and that was an agreement by Kansas Sand and Gravel for the permit. So,
Agree.
Well said.
Yes, I would add that, yes, this project has a long history. The conditional use permit has affected past commissioners and current commissioners. We've been consistent. And anyone wanting to do some research, I think would find ample volumes on this project. So appreciate both of the public comments, but at this time, all those in favor say aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries 3-0.
Item C, Information Technology. Number 1, consider authorization and execution of contract C42-2016 with Eagle Software, Inc. for annual maintenance of CommVault software and hardware support of a SpectraLogic T125 tape drive system in a total amount of $11,879.34.
Morning, Commissioners. Pat Oblander with the Information Technology Department. This is the annual renewal for maintenance on our tape drive system. That's the system that we depend on to back up all of our critical systems throughout Shawnee County and all the departments that use it. There are two components to it. It's the maintenance for the software and for the hardware both. The cost of that is $11,879.34. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Pat. Are there questions?
I have none. I would move for approval.
Motion by Commissioner Cook,
Second.
second by Commissioner Archer. All in favor say aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries 3-0.
C2, consider authorization and execution of contract C43-26 with Software House International for a 9-month subscription for 2 licenses to use Adobe Creative Cloud for Teams software at a cost of $1,134 and a full-year subscription for the 2 licenses when the 9-month subscription lapses at a cost not to exceed $1,600.
Commissioners, on this item, this is a purchase of 2 additional licenses that we would like to use for Adobe Creative Cloud. This is a product that we use when we're developing digital imagery for our websites and for presentations, et cetera. Adobe has a subscription model for pricing on their products. We currently own, the county currently owns a couple of licenses that come up for renewal in 9 months. Adobe prefers that when we purchase additional licenses that those terminations occur at the same time. And that's the reason why we're asking for 9 months for this purchase for the additional 2 licenses. I'm also asking for approval to renew for a full year the 2 licenses that we're buying or are trying to purchase at this point, so that we don't have to come back before the commissioners for the same purpose again within a year. And that's the reason for the permission to purchase not to exceed $1,600. We're pretty certain that the price would not exceed that cost in 9 months.
Okay.
If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer those.
Thank you, Ben. Are there questions?
Move to approve the contract.
Motion by Commissioner Archer, second by Commissioner Cook. All in favor, say aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries 3-0.
Item C3, consider authorization and execution of contract C44-2016 with Software House International for a 1-year subscription for 7 licenses to use Reshaper Ultimate software at a cost of $2,597.
Commissioners, this piece of software is another software that's using the subscription model, which is something I'm not really fond of, but that's the way the industry is going. You used to be able to purchase software and you would own it for as long as it was viable. Now you have to repurchase the software every year. It's just the way of the future. It's the way it's going to be, and I'll have to learn to deal with that. This particular piece of software is something that our coders would use to analyze software that we develop in-house. And as you know, when you develop software, you have thousands and thousands of lines of code, some of which might contain some inefficiencies or errors in thinking. This software is actually capable of going through and analyzing your code and checking for things like, did you have a point where you ask, is A equal to B? And if so, do C. This software will check to see, is that condition ever met? If it's not, it raises a flag and says, you've got a problem in your thinking here, go back and straighten it out. So it's pretty interesting software. Really will be helpful in creating efficient software and problem-free software. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer those.
Thank you, Pat. Questions?
I would move for approval of the request.
Thank you. There's a motion by Commissioner Cook.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Archer. All in favor, say aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries 3-0. Thanks,
Thank you,
Commissioner.
Commissioner.
Item D, Health Agency, number 1, consider approval of request to fill 2 Office Assistant 2 positions in the Community Health Center through the temporary staffing agency Key Staffing until such time the vacant OA2 positions are filled at a cost of $15.41 per hour.
Alice Weingardner, Shawnee County Health Agency. Back in November, this commission approved the filling of 3 OA2 positions, and so we were attempting to use a staffing agency to fulfill those functions until we got applications. We started using the staffing, temporary staffing in January, and then found that we do not have a contract with the particular company that we brought staffing in with, and so that's what this contract is being brought forward for, so that we can pay the bills that we've been receiving. We will then review the contract along with the contract that's currently in place with another staffing agency and determine which one we should be using based on cost. So I'd be happy to answer any other questions you might have.
Thanks, Alice. Are good questions this time? I'll move approval of the request. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Cook. All in favor, say aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries 3-0.
Thank you. Item D2, consider authorization and execution of contracts C45-2016 and C46-2016 with the Information Network of Kansas to provide electronic commerce transactions, including online and counter payments for collecting payment for the health agency, local health department, and the Community Health Center chargeable services to Shawnee County Health Agency customers through the Can Pay website.
That was long, wasn't
Right.
it? This contract, or these contracts, are for a new service that we're using to be able to collect payment from patients via credit card, electronic check, or automatic clearinghouse. It's a system that I believe several county departments have been moving to, and we have implemented as well. And so these are the contracts we want to have in place. The one thing I would note that we are doing with our contract, is that we are covering the costs that could be incurred by the patient, so that we're not costing them any more money for the services, and we can cover that, and it typically runs about 3 cents per dollar. So we're able to do that.
Thank you. Questions on the contracts?
I would move for approval of the request.
Motion by Commissioner Cook. I'll second that motion. All in favor, say aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries 3-0. Thank you.
Item E, audit finance. Number 1, consider approval of request for out-of-state travel for 5 employees to attend the 2016 Sugar Education and Training Conference at an estimated cost of $8,600.
Morning, Commissioners. Pat O'Blander standing in for Betty Griner. Betty is here, but her voice is kaput, so I'm going to handle this one on her behalf. If there are any questions, she can whisper in my ear, and I'll translate for you. This item is for the provisions to send staff to the SunGuard Users Group Association in April of this year. We're asking for several staff members, 5 employees from several different departments to attend this conference. This conference is really critical, especially this year, since we are upgrading or migrating our software for IFAS from the current version to the One Solution version. And there are going to be quite a few things that we will be having questions about as we go through that, and it'll be really beneficial to us to have staff at this conference so that we can ask questions of SunGuard staff. We can also ask other people who have gone through this migration already. How did it go for you? What pieces and parts should we watch out for? What should we implement? What shouldn't we? A lot of useful interactions will occur at this conference. And so we're asking for your permission to send those staff to this conference. If you have any questions, I'll try to answer them through Betty for you.
Okay. Thank you, Pat. Are there questions? Commissioner Archer?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve and note that from the last time that employees attended this conference, they came back with economies and efficiencies and effectiveness that more than paid for the costs and contribute to the operation of Shawnee County. So I'll be glad to make a motion to approve this request.
Thank you.
Second.
Second, motion by Commissioner Archer, second by Commissioner Cook. All in favor, say aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries 3-0. Thank you. Thanks, Betty.
Item F, Parks and Recreation. Number 1, consider authorization and execution of contract C47-2016 with the Information Network of Kansas, allowing Parks and Recreation to accept over-the-counter credit card payments at a rate of 2.5% per transaction and be billed monthly for the processing fee.
Good morning, Commissioners. John Knight, Parks and Recreation. I'd just like to set the record straight that just because Betty's been yelling at me for the last couple of weeks, Parks and Recreation is not the reason why she lost her voice. Is it? Okay, good. Commissioners, you just saw an item on this that was very similar to this with the health agency. This is an opportunity for Parks and Recreation to more efficiently transact transactions with users of our parks. We build those fees in. You've had presentations on our cost recovery and how we establish fees. We build that right into the cost of doing business. Be happy to answer any other questions you may have.
Thank you, John. Are there questions?
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Archer, second by Commissioner Cook. I do have one question, John. So then you would be able to go on the website and be able to pay your credit card, with your credit card, to any of the programming that we offer,
Yes.
correct?
Mm.
Okay. Or on-site?
Or on-site.
Does it depend on the site? Or is it all sites?
It will depend on the site only into the equipment that is available at those sites, but we are very close to having most of our sites. Excuse me, maybe I am the reason Betty lost her voice. This is
Just over the counter? Working on the other, okay, thank you.
That's what I meant to say, yes.
That's what I meant to say. Thank you, okay. All right, all those in favor say aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries 3-0.
Thank you.
Item F2, consider adoption of an outreach to diverse underserved population policy and the implementation of the Family Scholarship Program designated to address families that find it difficult financially to participate in valuable programs, primarily youth programs.
Commissioners, we've had several presentations over the last year a year and a half regarding implementing the master plan that was developed for us. A lot of the concepts of the master plan was financial sustainability and fairness. What I was afraid of as we started down that process is that the public would begin to think that we were only about the money and turning a profit in those costs. What this policy does, it's the start of a bigger policy in which the department will work on all of the barriers that keep people from participating in our programs, but we're starting with the financial piece of this. I've been working closely with Commissioner Cook on a couple of these programs too. This sets a policy on, instead of keeping all of our fees across the entire system low to make them affordable, we are more strategic, and we're trying to find the method that any of the help that people need, financial help to participate in our programs, that is more of that is directed there. With that, we'd like to take that, if this becomes if the commission approves this and we move forward, we will probably take this also to our foundation and see if we could begin to offset some of those costs with private dollars. Some of the issues with this is, as we begin down this process, and we've had various forms of this in the past too, but this gets us past keeping all of our fees low for the few who need it. But also then to allow, what I didn't want is for staff to be in the position to have to determine who's receiving taxpayer support for entering their program. That ought to be a call of this commission. And this policy sets that up. We'll use the federal school lunch program as a guideline and begin working back from there. That'll tremendously. You can see a lot of Parks and Recreation people here. They love their job, but one of the reasons they love their job is because of these type of things, of getting kids into these programs, helping those kids that need those. There's a particular interest on their part. So this begins to set that process up where the commissioners have given us guidelines to work under, and we're providing financial help to those who need the financial help.
Thank you, John. Questions, Commissioner Cook?
I just might highlight, as John noted, he and I have been working very closely on this. Contained within the memorandum, we're still working out, have the specifics on it, but waiving the fees for the rescue mission. Just because you were a kid at the rescue mission doesn't mean that you shouldn't have all the other advantages of anybody else. Whether it's participating in a camp, or whether it's participating in baseball or softball, especially with the county making the investment into Dornwood, this is a highlight, and I think this is something the commission should be very much behind, is making sure that just because you were a kid at the rescue mission, you don't have the opportunity to go play baseball or softball, especially at Dornwood, where we're investing those dollars. So, and I back John on this, and 100%, I think this is a good move by the County Parks and Rec, and it shows that we're really investing back into our community.
Is that a motion?
Questions or comments?
Well said, and I'll second that motion.
There's a motion by Commissioner Cook and second by Commissioner Archer. Johnny, do you have one question? So have we had any policy before this, or was it not as formal?
We did have an informal policy in the department where we began using the similar federal school lunch program as a guide, but staff was interpreting those and which ones should be on there. And this really puts a lot of teeth into it, and then also gives them a little bit of cover and guidelines of how they can implement the program underneath it.
So is there a plan on how often this is reviewed?
Oh, at least annually.
Okay.
Probably as we begin this, we may review this more often, just to make sure that it is being implemented the way we all intended it.
Okay, good. That's what I wanted to hear. All right. All those in favor say aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries 3-0.
Item F3, consider authorization and execution of contract C48-2016 with Stephen Dean Carson to serve as website coordinator, scheduling leagues, tournaments, and information for the Topeka Baseball and Softball Association at a fee of $1,875.
Commissioners, this is kind of a closely related item. As you know that we're halfway through our reorganization of Parks and Recreation. We're looking at what is the true cost back to the taxpayers, and to have a full-time employee performing functions like what's on this page here will cost us a lot more than what we're paying Mr. Carson to do that. He's invested in the program. He'll do a lot of the work for us at a lot less of a cost than it would cost us to do that. Be happy to answer any other questions you may have.
Thank you, John. Are there questions?
Move to approve the contract.
Motion by Commissioner Archer.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Cook. All in favor, say aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries 3-0.
Item F4, acknowledge receipt of the annual noxious weed eradication program report for 2015, the annual noxious weed management plan for 2016, and the weed department's share cost chemical price list for 2016.
Commissioner, John Wellborn's here, and this is required by state law that we do these reports, and John and his staff have worked real hard on putting this together.
Good morning, Commissioner. John Wellborn, Shawnee County Weed Department. These are 2 annual reports that are required, but the state of Kansas, as John just indicated, we base the annual report on the Nexus Weed program that we utilize in conjunction with the IFAS program. That's where all the information comes from. And they asked that we include our chemical uses for the year and what weeds we are treating and how the landowners here in Shawnee County utilize those chemicals to control the noxious weed issues on their properties. And at this time, I'd be glad to answer any questions about the annual report that you might have.
Great, thank you, John. Are there other questions?
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Cook?
John, I understand that you guys might have something to do this weekend down at the Expo Center.
Yeah, we sure do. We'll have an educational booth there at the Expo Center, which I was going to mention here, but a little bit later, and I would sure welcome the commissioners to come and help us meet the public at any point in time this weekend.
Commissioner, also just noting, the weed department is responsible for over 75,000 parcels of land. And so John's got his hands full in making sure that we eradicate the weeds, and I know that from the annual weed meeting breakfast we have, Shawnee County's noted in highlights and all of the good work that we do and how we stand among other counties in the state.
Okay. Yeah.
I would move for approval of the reports.
Thank you. Commissioner Cook has made a motion.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Archer. All in favor of the motion, say aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries 3-0. Thank you, John, for being available for questions. I appreciate it.
Item G, County Councilor, number 1, legislative update.
Good morning again, Commissioners. Ruth Checkert, Shawnee County Councilor. Yesterday, an interesting bill was filed, Senate Bill 441. I call it the not-so-fast Andrew Howe bill. That bill would allow the county commissions to directly hire and fire election commissioners. As you know now, they're currently appointed by, in our county, the Secretary of State. However, that bill is a Democratic bill, so take it for what that is. On our property tax lid, this week they were supposed to have 2 hearings or 2 days of hearings on the tax lid bill that moves the date up. Those were canceled, and we're now hearing that this topic might not be broached again until after turnaround. And that includes the 2 bills that KAC filed, so this topic is now going to be quiet until after turnaround. It doesn't mean it's going away. It doesn't mean that. It just means that they're not ready to deal with this issue yet.
May I ask a question? So have there been any hearings on it? No hearings on this bill whatsoever?
Not yet.
Even before it was adopted, there were no hearings?
Well, that's the other bill. I'm talking about the bill that moves the date up. But there never actually was a bill. That thing was just implemented in the budget bill of last year that in 2018 tax lid, yes.
Yes, thank you for pointing that out.
Okay. Another bill we've been looking at is the so-called Sanctuary Cities and Counties bill. This is a bill that bars any ordinance, resolution, policy, or procedure that limits or restricts the enforcement of federal immigration law to less than full extent permitted by federal law. We still argue over what the word sanctuary means. There's no definition for that. It's whatever the person who's talking decides it is. We comply with not only federal law but federal case law, So I make the point that we're not, in fact, a sanctuary city. Other people disagree with that, or sanctuary county. Just so you know what we're talking about, there are two different types of communications immigration has with us. One, they tell us to hold an inmate because they're coming to get that person, and we. The other communication is they politely request that we hold them forever and ever until they get around to it. And that runs into an issue with constitutional law in that we have 48 hours to hold someone until charges are filed. When charges are filed, then we hold them indefinitely. But what we run into is that someone, their business with the city or the district attorney is completed. In other words, we don't have a legal reason to keep them at that point in time, but then we have this hold, which is really a request, and that violates federal case law. And in fact, that has been heard in a different circuit, not our circuit, but in another circuit, and it was held to be a violation. And in case you think that maybe we're small here in Topeka and we might go unnoticed, no, we got the demand letter from the ACLU last year to be in conformance with this case, and we are. I don't know if there's confusion about how that works, but during the hearing, the KAC went to the podium and explained that. And it actually seemed that both sides, both parties, seemed to be receptive to what we were saying. And they even suggested that perhaps what they'll do is, in these cases where there is litigation, the Attorney General will be in charge of the litigation. And if there's found to be a damage, that the AG would pay that, the state would pay that. Well, okay, we're in then, if that's what the change is. So that will be worked again, and we'll see what happens. But it did seem to be that the committee did understand the pressure cooker that we're under when it's just a hold. So a hold request from immigration. So we'll see how that goes. There's another troublesome House bill, and I don't yet know if it has any traction. It's called House Bill 2576, and it prohibits cities and counties from requiring a private employer from altering or adjusting their employee schedule. And as I say that, you probably can't think of one way that we do that, but we do. We tell trash companies that they can't pick up trash at 2 o'clock in the morning. We have a rule that I believe they can't get started until 6 in the morning, and believe me, every trash company is on the road at 6, and we get complaints every year, and sure enough, we got one in December, that trash companies start working before 6 in the morning. And it's a very loud enterprise in residential areas. And it appears that this bill actually is more aimed towards construction, but the way it's written, it would capture what we do with the trash companies. So, again, I don't know if that has any traction, but that's one that's out there. It made the KAC kind of above their list, so that's why I bring it up. Finally, I do want to talk about one more before I say the word finally. There's a bill out there about property taxes, and it has two options for homeowners. One, they can pay their property taxes in the form of an installment plan. Right now, your tax bill for your house is due on, the first half is due December, and then the second half is due May 10th. And your May 10th, even though it's made in 2016, it's the finality of your 2015 tax bill, so it's paid in arrears. The bill allows a taxpayer to come in and negotiate how that they're going to pay it, once, or a monthly payment, a quarterly payment, and it's a bit of a housekeeping nightmare, as you can imagine. We don't have a program that does that. So that's something that we may work through. The other thing it does is it allows a homeowner to smooth the property taxes over 5 years. So in other words, you look at what the property tax has been for the last 5 years, come up with an average payment, and you pay that. And again, they're not going to short the counties or the cities. I mean, in the end, the full amount will be paid. It's just smoothed over that 5-year period. Now, here's the trick, though, and this is why KAC actually went to the podium and supported the bill. Both of those programs are opt-in. In other words, you decide whether or not you want to do either one of those programs. So it seems to be a bill that would be friendly to the taxpayer and friendly to us in that we decide whether or not we want to participate in those two programs. So right now, I just want to point that bill's out there, and if it does pass, we don't have to panic because we get to decide whether or not we allow our citizens to participate with us in that program. Okay, I always like to talk about a bill that freaks us out a little bit, and here's this week's freak out. It's Senate Bill 401, and this is a telecommunications bill, and apparently some of the companies, the telecom companies who put up wireless towers don't like the fact that each county or each city has their own set of rules. So this is a bill that would uniformly take over, that's the word I use, it takes over our application process. And I kind of understand where the telecommunications companies are coming from. It is a little bit of a hassle that you might have different rules in different places you go. However, the answer nukes our application process and everybody's application process. And it controls how much fees we can charge and this and that. But the one thing that's really problematic is that, and I'm going to read this so everyone can hear what it does. A wireless services provider, think Verizon, Sprint, so on and so forth, shall have the right to construct, maintain, and operate wireless support structures, small cell wireless facilities, or distributed antenna systems along, across, upon, or under the public right-of-way. Period. So if they want to put a micro tower in the middle of our roundabout at 46th Street, Northwest 46th Street, they can do it. We don't get a say in it. Now, they do have to promise that they'll put it back as well as they can. It can't hinder the public travel. And if they don't fix it, we get to fix it and charge them, although even then, that the amount that we paid has to be satisfactory to the wireless provider before any payment will be made. So it's a bit problematic in the fact that we now lose total control over our right-of-way, and the bill doesn't address what if we need to reconstruct a road and now they're in our right-of-way and we have to have them move. I mean, there's just a myriad of problems with it, and the problem for us is that telecoms, all of them, are behind this. They're in favor of this, and I can remember a status all 4 or 5 years ago that they were the #1 industry in terms of lobbying revenues provided. So we usually don't win these. So we'll try to fight it. We'll try to change it so that it becomes more work for us. But it's out there and it has a little bit of steam behind it.
What was that bill number?
401, Senate Bill 401. And unless you have any specific questions about anything I've talked about in the past.
One that was, this is our alert from NACO. It was about a permanent Internet Tax Freedom Act. And then the clerk brought this to my attention as well. It was
that is a tax on access. So in other words, when you get your Cox cable bill, they charge you, say they're charging you $60 a month for your internet service. That's currently not subject to taxation by a local municipality. So that's an access tax, and that will allow sales tax upon that access. It's a little bit confusing because the first time I read it, I thought, well, that's the tax on Amazon. I mean, if I buy from Amazon, Amazon's a bad example, actually. They do charge tax on Kansas. Buy a computer from Newegg, that's tax-free. But that is a tax upon the access, which is your Cox, AT&T, Uverse, whatever your for your access.
okay. All right. Any questions, comments? All right. Thank you, Rich.
Item 5, Administrative Communications.
Good morning, Commissioners. Larry Moss, Shawnee County Treasurer. I've been working closely with Betty, as you can tell. I'm losing my voice, too. I hadn't planned on coming to the podium until I'd listened to Rich and his report. I'm here to say that I strongly oppose this tax payment plan where we have multiple payments. We collect taxes twice a year. What this has the potential to do is to have customers or taxpayers coming in multiple times to make payments. So instead of seeing them twice a year, we're going to see them 4, 5, 6 times a year. And also has the provision, as he said, to smooth taxes. Essentially, what it amounts to is they want us to set up an escrow account for taxpayers where the treasurer would have to estimate future taxes and then collect payments periodically. And if we overestimate, we have to make refunds. If we underestimate, then we send bills. I get approached occasionally by particularly older citizens who like to try to level out their payments, and I fully appreciate that. My advice to them is always go down to your local credit union and set up what we used to call a Christmas account. You have an advantage there. They're going to pay you interest. You have access to your money at any given time, and it's not going to cost the other taxpayers administrative costs to administer your account. So I can tell you that the Treasurer Association is strongly opposed to this, is testifying against that bill. It's not that we don't think it's a great idea for individuals. We just don't think that the county treasurer should be their personal banker, and that there are better options for the taxpayer. One other bill that just popped up on the horizon this last week is a bill being introduced by the Kansas Turnpike Authority. If you've driven on the Turnpike recently and gone through their toll booths, you'll notice that they're taking pictures. You've seen the flashes. They're setting this up so that they're plan on getting rid of the gates. And it's going to be a nationwide system where you can drive at 70 miles an hour and your tolls are paid. They don't want to have to slow down, and they don't want to have to replace gates. Well, they fully anticipate that they'll have people who will run their gates and that they will need to collect. So they're going to take pictures of the license plate, and while they have lots of ways they're going to try to collect that, the ultimate solution is they would like for the county treasurers to collect that debt. And the way they would do that is pretty much like we do personal property these days. If you don't pay your personal property, then I will put a stop on your motor vehicle registration, and you will not register or title a vehicle anywhere in the state of Kansas until that debt is completed. We've had that on the books for many years, and we use that. It's a good law. The problem I have with the KTA is that we're collecting their fees. That does not directly benefit Shawnee County. I believe it would interfere with my statutory duty to collect taxes. I would also find myself in the position of refusing to take thousands of dollars worth of tax money on behalf of Shawnee County until they paid what might amount to a few $100s at most to the KTA. I don't think that's a good business decision, and certainly I don't believe that the Shawnee County Treasurer should be focused on collecting fees for KTA in favor of collecting taxes for our taxpayers. So I will be testifying against that bill, which will be heard next Tuesday. And just one final note, we have experience from using this method when we do personal property taxes. Since we collect taxes, I'm more than willing to take the abuse and the confrontation that ultimately occurs when you confront someone about a bill and tell them they're not going to be driving their car until they pay it. I don't see any advantage to do that for the KTA. We're not going to get any of that money, while it's a good thing for them, and may in fact lower your turnpike fees. There's no advantage to the Shawnee County taxpayers direct. I feel like it's a law enforcement issue, and it should be handled by law enforcement. It sets up a confrontation in my offices that is an uncontrolled environment and is most likely to occur when we have literally dozens of taxpayers in the office, and if it gets out of hand, we're putting those folks as well as my staff at risk. And that's the message I'll be delivering to the committee next week. And I wanted to let you know, I believe you would rather me focus on collecting your taxes and not the fees for the Turnpike Authority. So if you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
Any questions? No. Thank you, Larry.
Thank you.
Anyone else for administrative communications? Commissioners? Oh, Megan.
Morning, Commissioners. Megan Barrett, County Counselor's Office. In May, I will have worked for the county for 6 years, and whenever anyone asks me what I enjoy about what I do or where I work, my honest answer is that I'm proud to work for Shawnee County because I'm hoping in some way, however small it may be, I'm helping to have a positive impact on the community that I live in. What I'm here to report to you today is how much of a positive impact working for Shawnee County has had on me personally. As many of you are aware, my younger brother recently passed away. It's been a very difficult time for me and my family, but I have received such an outpour of support from so many here at the county, not just where I work in the counselor's office, but from so many departments, so many people from all over who I've come to know over the years. They're my colleagues, they're my friends, and so for anyone who has messaged me, sent me a card, just stopped me in the hallway, I just want to say your support means a lot, and from the very bottom of my heart, thank you very much.
Thanks, Megan.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice.
Commissioners, anything? Commissioner Archer?
Oh, just very quickly, Madam Chair, last night was our first JADO meeting of the year, and the county is responsible for the administration this year of JADO. And I wanted to compliment the chair for a well-run meeting last night. Sometimes meetings can get out of control, and job well done. I also would like to thank the chair, Mayor Larry Walgast, and Councilman Jeff Cohen for moving forward with the recommendations from the Garner report. I think that's important. It's going to be a lot of work, and I appreciate the three of you taking that assignment on to move us forward. So,
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Commissioner Cook?
Might also echo those same comments. Thank you for your work in getting this drafted and brought to us. It was my pleasure to make the motion to adopt that.
Yes. Good.
Also noting this weekend is the Extension Council's, did I steal it again?
No, no,
Okay.
good, no, good.
The Extension Council's Farm and Home Show at the Expo Center. Please come out and take a look at what the Expo Center looks like now and envision what it's going to look like after it's renovated.
Yep.
Good point. Very good. Thank you. I do want to acknowledge we have Councilman Shum in the audience. Thank you for being here this morning. I don't have anything to add. Next item, please.
Item 6, executive session.
There is a need for an executive session not to exceed 30 minutes for purposes of matters related to employee-employer negotiations and personnel matters involving non-elected personnel. That is the motion. Second by Commissioner Archer. All in favor, say aye. When opposed, motion carries 3-0. 30 minutes.
I'm sorry. Please go to committee.
All right, we are back in session, no action required at this time, we are adjourned. Brian, are we still going to be able to make it at 11?